Hello, and welcome to our to the third episode of our show about games. My name is Bruno Oliveira, and I work in the Android Developer Relations team.
I am Todd Kerpelman. I am on the Play Games Developer Relations team, and this is episode 3 of Game On, our sort of every couple of weekly show about all things games related.
And you're probably wondering where episodes 1 and 2 went, and this is what we're going to talk about.
This brings us right into our news and updates, and we'll start with...
We actually changed our name.
We have a name.
We used to be the Google Play Games Show, and now we've changed to Game On. Actually, that font looks a little too modern to my taste. Why don't we try something more retro, like 8 bits? That's much better.
That's a little better.
That's a little better.
You'll notice we added the lens flares in just for you gamers. We know
Absolutely.
you love lens flares.
And we have some news on the iOS front. Is that right?
That's right. On the iOS front, the big news is we just released an update to the iOS SDK. Version 1.1 is officially available. The biggest improvement that you will probably notice is that we have a new look for the achievement and the leaderboard widgets. It's a little more of a modern look, kind of going with sort of the aesthetic of iOS moving forward. So you'll probably notice that right away. We also have a number of performance improvements under the hood. We've greatly improved the caching for leaderboard scores. If, for instance, your user switches back and forth between daily, weekly, and all-time leaderboard scores, that will be much faster. We do a better job of batching and submitting leaderboard scores. If the user plays a bunch offline, then comes back online, all of their leaderboard scores, all their score submissions will be submitted in one nice little batch instead of, say, multiple score submissions. So that'll be nice. That'll be a lot more efficient. We have exposed that call as well. If you want to, for instance, submit a couple of scores to a couple of leaderboards all at once, we now have a call available for you to basically batch all those up and make those in one network call, which is really nice. It kind of saves on battery and performance and all of that stuff. We've also made just a number of bug fixes and enhancements and general sort of performance improvements under the hood. And so we encourage you to check it out. I do want to let you know about a couple of gotchas. First, there are 2 new frameworks that are required by this new library, specifically Cortex.framework and QuartzCore.framework. So if you haven't included those in your project, you'll need to. Also, with this new library, you're going to need a deployment target of iOS 6.0 or greater. Chances are you're probably already doing that with your game, but if not, you are going to need to change your deployment target if you're using this new library. And so this library is available from our site at developers.google.com/games/services, and then look for the downloads link on the left.
All right, and now for those of you who like tracking bugs, and especially if you like a public way to track bugs, we have, ta-da, a public bug tracker. So if you got a bug or a feature request, then you can access that URL right there. So it's code.google.com/p/playgamesplatform.
This is also available from our games page. If you look on the left, there is now a link to, I believe, Public Bug Tracker. So if you notice any issues with the game, or you have requests, or anything else, feel free to submit them there. I can't guarantee that we will reply to every bug, but I can guarantee we'll at least look at them.
Absolutely, and make sure to post only the bugs that have to do with the platform there. If you have a bug, if you find a bug in the samples, then the right place is GitHub.
Yeah.
They go to GitHub, and GitHub has its own issue system.
And yeah, if you find a bug with a game, you're still probably better off contacting the game developer.
Exactly.
We can't debug every game.
We didn't make every game.
No. So with that out of the way, let's move into this week's topic, which is Cloud Save. And so Cloud Save is a really, I think it's a great feature. I think this service is a little underutilized right now.
Absolutely, it's missing on so many games. Like I've lost count how many times I've played a game and wished it had Cloud Save.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if you change devices and then you have to lose all of your progress.
I suppose Google employees might have more devices than your typical consumer, but even now you're starting to see consumers with a lot of devices in the household, right? Like maybe they've got more than one phone, maybe they've got a phone and a tablet, and they switch back and forth between them. And it would be great for your users if they could keep their progress between one device and the next. If they suddenly go from playing your game on their phone to opening up your game on the tablet, and they realize that they have to start over again all the way from level 1, they're probably just not going to play your game on that device. And maybe suddenly they decide they've lost interest in it. they're not playing your game anymore, they're not seeing ads, they're not buying in-game items, they're not telling their friends about it, and it's bad for your users, and it's bad for you too. So we really encourage you to look into Cloud Save. It's really just designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that's kind of sync your users' progress from one device to the next. And so with that big preamble out of the way, let's go into a demo.
Actually, before we go into the demo, it's important to notice that Cloud Save is actually cross-platform. So you can even have a game, if your game runs on Android and iOS, I mean, you can save your state on Android and then pick up the same state where you left off on iOS or vice versa. So that's good for households that have like one iPad and then one Android and one iPhone and then another Android. So
that is very true. I mean, that's starting to become a common situation. Households will have, Android phones and iPads, or they'll have, a Nexus 7 and an iPhone, and being able to play your game and continue progress between those devices would really be fantastic.
And, and if your game also works on the web, you can also share that state on the web. So that's pretty handy.
That is very true too. All right, so with that in mind, we're going to be demoing Samurai vs. Zombies Defense 2. This is by Glue Mobile, partly because it's a pretty good example of Cloud Save, and also because
because it has samurais and zombies.
And zombies.
Nothing can go wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's a pretty fun game. So with that, going to jump into this is the game right now running on.
So this is the Galaxy Nexus.
My Galaxy Nexus phone, and I would love to show you more of the game, but we're limited in time, so I'm just going to do something real quick here. I'm going to start the game up, and the game starts me in a storefront. And so I think, do I want to download this game? No, not right now. But thanks for asking. All right, so I'm actually just going to, you'll notice I have 920 of these little silver coins. I'm going to use them to upgrade this hero here, Kunoichi. From level 1 to level 2. So yes, let's upgrade her health.
All right.
All right, she's been upgraded. Now I'm going to go back to the main menu, and the game does save to the cloud automatically. However, because we're in a demo situation, I'm going to manually force a save. So it's going to say, okay, I'm going to save to the cloud next chance I have, and hopefully it's doing that right now.
All right, now let's switch to our tablet and see if that worked.
All right, so I'm on the Nexus 10 now, and I'm just going to force cloud load here by going into the cloud load menu.
Notice that normally this would happen automatically. We're just forcing it so that we can actually do this in a demo time frame instead of sitting around waiting for it to upload. Right. But normally the user would not have to do this. So now we're loading the game again. So remember that Todd upgraded the character on the Galaxy Nexus. So what we should see when the game loads is that the character is going to be upgraded. So we should see a higher level character.
Should see that. Before. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Let's see here. I'm going to start. And
there we go. Yep. So it's the same level, level 3. You were level 3 before, right? Okay.
Well, yeah, or I guess level 2. That option is to upgrade to level 3.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Point being, it's my progress is carried over from one device to the next, and now I can keep playing on the Nexus 10, which actually has a much better frame rate. So this is a better platform to play on anyway.
Yep.
So I'm just going to take this with me after the show.
Perfect.
So there we go. All right.
So conflict management. So Cloud Save, I mean, it's pretty convenient. You can save and you can load. But then imagine what happens if two devices try to save conflicting states at the same time to the cloud. So I'm playing here on my tablet, and then I upgrade my character to level 2. And then on my phone, I upgrade the same character to level 4 without syncing up the changes. What's going to happen is what's called a Cloud Save conflict. So you need to think about those Cloud Save conflicts and then handle them in a way that makes sense for your app. So if you want to take a look, this is that link over there is a link to a white paper that we wrote that talks about how many strategies to handle Cloud Save conflicts and how to make that in a way that makes sense, and that especially, and this is especially important, in a way that doesn't lose any progress for the user.
Right. So it's a pretty in-depth bit of reading. My takeaway, if you just want some general advice, is when you're trying to resolve two cloud saves, resolve these two states in isolation. Don't assume based on sort of the local user's game state or anything, you know more than in sort of what you get from the cloud save data. Just because it gets a little tricky, but due to sometimes the way we give you these two states to resolve, they might not be actually in the time frame that you expect. So
Exactly.
long story short, try and resolve these two states as if this is the only data you have, and just try and forget about the rest of the world when you're doing that. And I suppose there's a couple ways you can kind of look at this problem. One way is, if you want to be clever, do it Bruno's way, which would be
you can essentially just you can look at the two states and see if there's a clever way in which you can merge them together. Instead of just picking one or the other. Sometimes it might just make sense to pick one or the other, but sometimes if you notice that they have discrepancies, it might make sense to sort of like merge them intelligently together. So this is what, for instance, our sample collect all the stars does, which is, for instance, if you unlock a few levels on one device and then unlock a different set of levels on a different device, then what it does is it actually combines those two saves into one. It doesn't choose one, doesn't choose the other, but actually combines them into a single save that has all of those levels unlocked. So
yeah, if you think about a lot of games, Cut the Rope, Angry Birds, Where's My Water, or Where's My Mickey, which is awesome. If you think about the way those games work, in general, you have stars on every level and you have high scores on each level, and that can be pretty safely unioned between two conflicting sets of data, right? If you have 2 stars on level 1-4 on this device and 3 stars on level 1-4 on this other device, that's something you can very easily merge just by saying let's take the greater number of stars.
Yeah, but be careful about stars. May be an easy case, but be careful about stuff like virtual currency and stuff like that,
Right?
Because it can get actually into hard to predict problems. So the more details about that in the white paper.
And then, of course, if you don't want to be clever, just ask the user. Say, hey, you know what? We found these 2 sets of cloud data. This one looks like it was saved on July 30th on this device, and this one looks like it was saved on August 1st, at this time on this device. You're at level 4 with a thief on this one, and you're at level 5 with a paladin on this device. Which one do you really want? Ask the user, bring up a dialogue. Chances are the user will know which one they want.
Exactly.
And go with what they pick.
Yep.
So if you want more information, check the docs. You probably knew we were going to say that, but there's the
Because we say that
link.
on every show.
We kind of do, but go to the docs.
We really love our docs.
We spend a lot of time on them. You should read them.
Yep.
We have a link to Cloud Save there on sort of general concepts. You can read up more about it. Read Bruno's white paper.
Yeah, and if you want some real excitement, you can try our sample app, which is Collect All the Stars.
And we have versions for Collect All the Stars on Android, iOS, and web. So you can see what it looks like saving one state on one device and another state on another completely different device, and watching your progress carry over.
Exactly.
It's pretty magical.
And it's a very challenging game.
It is. So yeah, that too. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for episode 3 of Game On. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with episode 4, and we'll probably keep the same title. So just start searching for it.
All right. So thanks everybody, and see you next time.
Thanks, video audience.